frozen all immigrant visa processing for 75 countries indefinitely, including Pakistan and Bangladesh. Pakistan and Bangladesh have been grouped with high-risk countries, raising concerns of fraud as well as security challenges. Other nations include Russia, Somalia, Afghanistan, Brazil, Nigeria and Thailand. They will be affected by the indefinite pause starting the 21st of January. India is not on this visa freeze list that has been put out by the United States. Now, top government sources have told CNN News 18 that India's exclusion from the visa freeze list is an institutional signal that Washington does not view Indian applicants as a threat. But being formally named in an indefinite immigrant visa pause, this damages Pakistan's global profile, is the pitch that has come in from top government sources. That is the big piece of news that's coming in, a major signal coming in from the Trump administration, putting Pakistan and Bangladesh on a visa freeze list that comes into effect from the 21st of January. But India is not on that list. I'm joined by my colleague Akanksha Swaroop on the broadcast. So Akanksha, this comes right on the heels of the statement that came in from Sergio Gore talking about India's importance when it comes to the American ambit of relations. And clearly that signal now finding its way to this list, which has been put out by the United States, putting Pakistan and Bangladesh, but not India.
Absolutely, and it should not be much of a surprise, Ayushman, given that India can really not be equated with Pakistan or Bangladesh, given the free hand that perpetrators of violence and terrorism have been given in not just Pakistan, but in Bangladesh, even more so now with the ISI increasing footprint over there. Having said that, India's exclusion from the visa freeze list is an institutional signal that Washington is not viewing Indian applicants as a threat. Being formally named in an indefinite immigrant visa pause damages Pakistan's current global profile for sure. This has also reinforced their long-standing U.S. concern about Pakistan integrity around documentation and all legal paperwork. India's absence from the list has, of course, strengthened and cemented its own position as a strategic, trusted partner to the United States. It's particularly relevant for skilled migration, higher education, technology and healthcare. But nonetheless, important to highlight that apart from Bangladesh and Pakistan, countries like Somalia, Afghanistan, Russia, Nigeria, Brazil, Thailand are in fact among the nations who have been affected by this indefinite pause, which will begin on 21st of January. The State Department is pausing immigrant visa processing for 75 countries, and it's of course a clear-cut crackdown on applicants that are likely to become a public charge. And a State Department memo has directed the consular officers to refuse visas under existing law while the department has reassessed the screening and vetting procedures. In fact, what we are learning from our Security Affairs Editor Manoj Gupta is that Somalia, of course, has drawn its own heightened scrutiny from federal officials following the sweeping fraud scandal centered in Minnesota, where prosecutors uncovered massive abuse of taxpayer-funded benefit programs. And now the guidance instructs consular officers to deny visas to applicants that are likely to be relying on public benefits, weighing on a wide range of factors that includes health, age, English proficiency, their finances, even potential need for long-term medical care. The State Department will use its long-standing authority to deem ineligible potential immigrants who would become a public charge on the United States and exploit the generosity. More importantly, the full list of countries, of course, to give a few names, prominent ones being Afghanistan, Albania, Algeria, Antigua, Barbuda, Bahamas, Bangladesh, Russia, Pakistan, Nepal, Morocco, Kazakhstan, Tanzania, Sierra Leone. These are all countries that have been mentioned in the list of those 75 nations. There's also Thailand and Uzbekistan, Yemen. So a whole list of countries. Iran and Iraq also very much included in that list, as is Egypt, Ayushman. So clearly the big names over there being flagged off on the US visa freeze list, we've already shared now.
Right, but Akanksha, when it comes to the the changing regional dynamics in South Asia with Pakistan and Bangladesh. How does this signal go to the dispensation in Pakistan as well as Bangladesh, both the Shehbaz Sharif regime as well as the Yunus regime?
So it seems like the U.S. is now acknowledging its own strategic silence that it was maintaining on Bangladesh so far, given that many experts within the establishment in India and in South Asian countries that are vexed by terrorism perpetrating in Bangladesh, and in fact many from the intelligentsia in Bangladesh, that also includes the journalists, the liberal academia, have questioned why the United States had been silent so far when it's actively intervening, say, in situations or conflicts in Iran, which, as we all know, is their own internal conflict, even in, a country like Venezuela, where President Maduro is now being tried in the U.S. So the U.S. Was in fact being deemed hypocrite for not speaking out on, say, the violence being perpetrated against the minorities, particularly the targeting of Hindus, and the free hand that terrorist entities have been given. So in the latest, what we can tell you is that Brent Christensen is the ambassador designate by the United States to Bangladesh, and that in itself is a huge decision, given that for the longest time we were told that the U.S. ambassador to India, Ambassador Sergio Gore, who will be treated as the South Asia and Central Asia U.S. envoy. So nonetheless, there's now going to be a U.S. ambassador to Bangladesh, so you can expect a very, Bangladesh-specific focus now coming in from the United States. As far as Pakistan is concerned, we know what Asim Munir has to offer to the U.S. president. There's, of course, the lure of critical minerals that has, in fact, been provided to them. India is right now walking the diplomatic tightrope, and we will have to see how efficiently is India able to draw the U.S. president's own attention when it comes to addressing the issue of terrorism and terror emanating from Pakistan, more importantly, the role that Pak ISI is playing in Bangladesh. But let's say, for starters, this is a good beginning. Now that the U.S. State Department has acknowledged and, in fact, frozen the visas of countries, particularly Bangladesh and Pakistan, this is all happening a day after the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio had that telephonic conversation with the Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar. Interestingly, only the last line in that State Department readout said that even security in the Indo-Pacific had been discussed. So its security did feature. I'm sure India would have also flagged off its concerns with regards to terrorism, something that Dr. Jaishankar has been time and again doing with the Secretary of State Marco Rubio ever since Donald Trump has come to the White House last year.
Right. Thank you, Akanksha, for getting us that update when it comes to this entire development that's coming in. We also got a reaction from the U.S. State Department, which is also putting out different details about this freeze that's coming in. Now, as per the Department of State from the United States, the pause impacts dozens of countries, including Somalia, Haiti, Iran, and Eritrea, whose immigrants often become public charges on the United States upon arrival, is what the State Department has put out. We are working to ensure the generosity of the American people will no longer be abused, is the message that's coming. And Akanksha, there's crucial message coming in from the State Department. It's very Trumpian in its language, saying that when we look at these 75 nations, they have this chain migration kind of aspect to their immigration status. That's something Donald Trump has brought up in the past as well. And something very telling in this statement is this line: we are working to ensure the generosity of the American people will no longer be abused by this visa freeze, is the message that America is sending out to the entire globe, especially these 75 nations.
Right, and we've seen that Donald Trump, in fact, has been time and again, ever since he began campaigning for his presidency a second time around, he was extremely against illegal migration. He, in fact, has been blaming a host of countries for the rise in terrorism, and that is also including, say, countries not just in the Middle East, whether you're looking, say, at Iran, Iraq, or even, say, African nations like Libya, Morocco, Nicaragua, Congo. These are all nations that he's in fact been attacking. And it's interesting that he's also included Bangladesh, he's included Pakistan, and that in itself is a huge setback, say, for the Asim Munir regime right now, which has been tom-tomming about its newly strengthened ties with the U.S. president, given that Asim Munir has been hosted in the White House to luncheon by the U.S. president. So it's a huge setback, but more importantly, a stand taken, a very, very stringent and concrete stand being taken by Donald Trump under his second presidency, where they will not tolerate any kind of illegal immigration. It's interesting to see the number of countries they have barred because they are already cracking down, and they call them illegal aliens. And Donald Trump has made it amply clear that they have no space for these illegal aliens, as they refer to. But more importantly, if you look at it, there are Latin American nations like Colombia, even Brazil, that are in fact featured in this list of countries. So we'll have to see how this in fact moves forward.
Absolutely. And the State Department also putting out this message. The State Department will pause immigrant visa processing from 75 countries whose migrants take welfare from the American people at unacceptable rates. Also saying the freeze will remain active until the US can ensure that new immigrants will not extract wealth from the American people, is the message coming out from the State Department. So it's a stinging rebuke when it comes to the immigration status of several people who come in from Pakistan as well as Bangladesh, two nations among the 75 other nations where the visas have been frozen by the United States indefinitely. This will come into effect from the 21st of January.